This is the first online content creator EB-1A case that we've done. There was no request for evidence. We filed the case, it was immediately approved. Professionally, he's a trained psychologist, but much of his time, right, the majority of his time is doing content creation. He is reviewing movies, he's reviewing various things, and he talks about them, right? And he uses psychology to analyze various movies, Western movies, Asian movies. But how is that extraordinary? Doesn't any teeny bobber, aren't they able to do that? Why is the US giving out green cards? This is such a fascinating and interesting story. We took a lot of gamble, we strategized a lot. In this video, we're gonna walk through every single decision process that we did, share them with you. So hopefully you find it helpful. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, my name is Joseph. I'm the managing partner here at Tsang and Associates, where we solve legal problems with creative solutions. So the legal problem in this case is that the client wanted to get the EB-1A green card, the extraordinary ability green card, but he was a psychologist. Now note, he's a psychologist in China. Psychology is not viewed the same way, on the same reputation as Western psychology in Europe and in the US. And so a lot of times when you apply for EB-1A cases, one of the things that USCIS officers do, and this specifically applies to things that the US dominates in, like for example, medicine, they always say, you might be extraordinary in your field, in your country, but why do you need to come to the US? And what can you bring to the US? And he's not like a renowned professor at this renowned university teaching psychology. What makes this case so interesting was that he saw the pathway of most psychologists in China, and he thought, you know what, there might be something more beneficial if he is able to directly share the knowledge that he learned from psychology, critiquing movies, and be able to identify with the general public. And he immediately became relatively famous. Now, there are plenty of movie critics, people commentating on different shows in every country, and I'm sure people are more famous. But as a psychologist, there's only a few, and there's only a few that's able to do it to his caliber. But is it good enough for an EB-1A? And exactly what are the criteria and how do you even match that? So positioning, like I said before, it's always the hardest part. Do we position him as a content creator online? Do we position him as a psychologist, because that's where he got his degree? Or do we position him as an educator? Because ultimately, that is what he's doing for the public. We actually prepared 3 different EB-1A cases because we wanted to see the strength of each one, right? A lot of his documents fit neatly under all 3. And we really wanted to do the content creation because it's like, wow, this will be brand new. It will be so cool. But we were really afraid that the USCIS officer would just not understand, especially if it's an older generation person that kind of looks down on influencers and content creators and don't think that's a real field and all sorts of stuff. Or they'll compare him to Mr. Beast and it's like, oh, what's the entertaining value? So there were so many potential problems with that, even though that is what he is doing, that we decided not to do that. I also really wanted to lean in on the educator front because all the comments, all the reviews that people are getting and the therapy sessions that essentially people were getting out of it was like, this person has taught me so much. People from his channel, people started liking psychology more. People were buying his books on general education for psychology. The reason why we ended up canceling that is because there's so many educators of psychology in the US already. What is he gonna do in the US? Well, is he gonna educate the public on psychology? Is he gonna be a renowned educator in the US? That was such a difficult argument to make that it's like, yes, this is the utility of his work and that's his original contribution, but we shouldn't position him as such. So we went back to just a psychologist. Now this one we didn't actually want to do in the beginning because suddenly he's going to be compared to all the psychologists in the US. While that's going to be difficult, but we were able to overcome it. We showed all of his work in this field, and so few psychologists have achieved this on a national and international level. He has fans from all over the world. He makes really good content. He is smart. He's capable. He has a bright future. He makes a good salary. He himself is obviously a good writer. He published 4 books. He has 10 articles. He only has 100 citations. For anybody out there who's like, oh no, I only have 50 citations, 100 citations, I don't qualify. That's completely wrong. There's so many online blogs that say you have to have a crazy number of citations. It's not the citations that prove you're extraordinary. That's just one little factor, the indicator. He was a judge for one scholarly journal, and he wrote forwards, and he recommended books for other people. So just from hearing that, you might not immediately think, oh, this is a slam dunk case. Did he win major awards? Is he part of crazy memberships? No. In China, psychology is not that big of a deal yet. There's no these crazy memberships. He wasn't invited to go speak at crazy conferences, but he himself in his own right is doing quite well. So that was the first page, just kind of laying out for the officer, look, this is our client. Now we will prove to you that he is extraordinary. Here are the things that we worked on. We first started on, we always do this, by the way. What is he going to do in the US? Paint this picture. With him in the US, this is how great the US is going to be, right? We start with that. So we helped them with a business plan. We did all the sorts of things to show that he is going to be successful. He already has a fan and customer base. The first thing we proved was that he is an author of scholarly articles. That's one of his strongest ones, so we want to lead with that. So there's no doubt in the officer's mind that he at least meets this problem. We always want to lead with the strongest one. So we did scholarly journals, and we did books and magazine publications. So that was the first 10 pages. That's 1/5 already. Then we did published materials about him. And there was all sorts of DVDs, there were sorts of media publications online. We just kind of consolidated everything, try to prove it. It wasn't as strong as the articles, but we wanted to show he is of national importance. He didn't just like publish a few articles and then nobody knows about it, right? And the citations weren't that high. So a lot of scholars, they publish articles, but nobody really reads them, right? It doesn't receive national attention. It's just read by other scholars in that field, in that circle. So how important are you really? So we clearly immediately distanced him with the second prong. He published articles, yes, he is a scholar in his own right. But look at him, he's of national importance, right? He's of international importance because of all the fans that he got. He got published by all these different things. The third prong is we did a comparable evidence. This is always fun. A comparable evidence to published material. It's not just traditional newspaper. It's national media, influencers, other popular bloggers and YouTubers that interviewed him that he did collabs with. Now, how are you going to argue that that meets the EB-1A requirement, that fits the national media requirement? By the law and by the case law, it doesn't. But USCIS law is very flexible and they allow for comparable evidence. So we use that. This is the new age. This is how you are popular. People don't read newspaper anymore. People watch YouTube. They watch all these channels. People are on their phones all the time watching him. Look at how many views he got. Look at how many content he got. And look at these collabs. Look at all these people who are reaching out to him to do collaborations. It's not the same as the USCIS law that provided the guidance, but it's comparably even better. We distanced him from other psychology professors with the second prong, with how he was covered by national media, and then we really distanced him, showing that he is extraordinary with all these collabs. It doesn't quite fit in with all the other requirements, but it's similar to the second one, right? So we put the second one and third one together very, very strategically. Just so you guys know, the officers, they don't go like, 1, I approve, let me write my synopsis. 2, approve, write my synopsis. 3, deny it, let me write. They don't do that. What officers do is when they look at a case, they look through the whole thing. If they feel like it's approvable, it's a one click of a button. So you just want to get them past that hurdle of approving the case. If they look through it and they feel like, nah, I want to see more, then they go back one by one and say, this is not enough, etc. So we put 2 and 3 together. So even if they don't approve the third one, that makes them much more likely to want to prove the second one. So now we will have 2 in the bag. The 4th criteria we proved was his judgeship of the work of others. He himself, obviously reputable in the psychology field, he published books. Other people who want to do the same thing, other people who are psychologists themselves that are also publishing books, that are also trying to start a channel, they all look to him. He's one of the leading figures in that small little field. And so obviously he got to do various things for them, writing forewords, being a judge on different panels for other people's articles. So he was able to get those documents. And so we were able to argue he is a judge of others in the psychology field. As in the world of academia, it's really hard to say you are a judge, you are not a judge, right? So most of the time, if you're on a journal, you're reviewing other people's articles, you are a judge. So we kind of squeeze that in because he has them. I mean, he isn't known to be the judge, but everybody respects him as a judge. So those were the top 4, but we always squeeze in the original contribution. I mean, if possible, we always squeeze it in because it's the most flexible part, and it's the most time-consuming part, it's the most difficult part, but it also relates to what he's gonna do in the US, right? If you made no original contribution, if you are just an author, a judge, but you didn't really change your field and you don't really know what you're gonna do in the US, the officers are much less likely to want to approve your case. And that's, I think, the big difference between how we kind of do the EB-1A cases from what I see other people do, generally speaking, or when they do it themselves. They kind of read the requirements and like, oh, I fit 1, 2, and 3. Therefore, I'm extraordinary. I'm going to try to apply. But they don't kind of realize the psychology. Haha, this is psychology. They don't realize the mentality behind the USCIS officer. Why should they give you a green card? Other people have to invest $1 million to get a green card. Other people have to create a whole company and hire like 20 employees and stimulate the economy, and then they get a green card. You just get a green card because you have like 10 citations? Like, come on, right? So you really want to really prove that they are of use as well. It's much easier to prove what you're going to do in the US if you've also have an original contribution section. I always tie the 2 together. In this case, I put original contribution last because I want to bring it back to the front, right? I talk about the original contribution, how he has changed psychology for the better, for the entire population, for how many people in the world that speak Chinese. He's bringing psychology, he's bringing thought that the Western world arguably created, invented, that pioneered, and he's able to spread the gospel of psychology through movies to the general public. And he's able to help so many people become better parents, become better students, become better everything, right? Because psychology, your mind, affects everything that you do. He was a pioneer of that. He's young, he's passionate, he has a dream, and he's already made a reality in China. How much more so can he do it in the US for the rest of his life? Grant him this green card, he will make the US great. That was the original contribution section. In short, right, how many pages did we do it for? It was from page 34 to 48. So 14 pages dedicated to the original contribution section. We brought it back to what he's going to do in the US. So the officer, when they're reading through this entire attorney brief, sees what he's going to do in the US. Okay, I don't know if you're going to, why are you capable of doing that? They read through the whole brief. He is a psychologist, he's an expert, he has national attention, he has a fan base, he has all of these things. He did make a significant contribution. He is well positioned to make that happen. Does he meet 3 of the 10? Probably. Is a final merits determination? Is he an extraordinary psychologist? Do we have those type of people in the US? On balance, okay, probably give him the green card. So we didn't get the request for evidence. This case was immediately approved. We're very, very happy. I just want to encourage everyone, right? Think outside of the box. It might not work out, but think outside the box and test it. We tried it with the content creation, so EB-1A. We didn't feel like it had a strong enough case. We tried it with an educator. We didn't feel like this was a strong enough case. So we kind of took the best parts of those 2 and combined it here. So if you have any questions about this case or EB-1A in general, we'd love to talk to you. Take care. Bye-bye.